Does it make sense for the Red Sox to try and get a deal done with O'Neill now, before the offseason? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox playoff odds slowly dwindling down to zero here with only a few games left. The one positive thing that we could take away from the Red Sox not making the postseason is that they are going to have some extra time here between now and the offseason to speak with the players on this team that are going to be free agents and possibly get a deal done. And the person at the forefront of all of those guys right now is Tyler O'Neill. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to take a look at the pros and cons of the Red Sox re-signing or extending Tyler O'Neill, whether or not the Red Sox would actually do it, and how it would impact the 2025 team. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. I think when we are looking for reasons for the Red Sox to extend Tyler O'Neill, or at least attempt to get him extended, the big one is that he played a really important role on the 2024 Red Sox, and that is as a right-handed super slugger. Over 106 games this year, Tyler O'Neill had a 251 average with a 344 on base percentage and a 536 slug, good for an 880 OPS and a 140 OPS plus, about 40% above league average production. On top of that, he also had 31 home runs, like 4 of them were with runners on base, so it's only 61 RBIs, and he is closing in on 20 doubles at 18. Now, obviously, those stats are probably going to be a little bit different by the time you're watching this. I'm recording this a day before this video comes out, but in a season where most of the Red Sox production at the plate came from the left-hand side, having a guy like Tyler O'Neill who is able to balance out specifically the heart of this order is a really big positive in terms of whether or not the Red Sox should try and re-sign him. The Red Sox don't have really anyone, maybe Christian Campbell, but placing that burden on Christian Campbell next season is a lot. Trevor Story, I think at this point, you just sort of want him to be on the field, right? You aren't really expecting, especially anywhere near those numbers in terms of overall production at the plate. So you take a look at it and you say, yeah, Tyler O'Neill was really important to this Red Sox offense. Now, there is one other part of this that I think we should mention as well, and that is how well Tyler O'Neill hit left-handed pitching, because he was one of the best lefty pitching hitters in the entire sport this season. Through 74 games this year against lefties, O'Neill is hitting .315 with a .432 on base percentage and a .756 slug, good for a 228 OPS plus. That is literally 128% more productive than the average hitter against left-handed pitching in the entire sport. That's really, really great statistics, right? That is honestly fantastic statistics. So when you're looking at, hey, why should the Red Sox bring back Tyler O'Neill? It's because of how important he was to this 2024 offense. Imagine how well he would mesh with an offense that is a bit more experienced, has a bit more star power in it, with guys coming up, and is backed by a bit more pitching. It could be a whole lot of fun to watch. Now, there are some concerns with Tyler O'Neill offensively, right? It's not all daisies and sunshine. He does tend to strike out quite a bit. He's always done that throughout his career, although I will say he's walked more this year than he has in any other year, and he's in the bottom percentile in strikeouts in the entire sport. And there were times this year where Tyler O'Neill was extremely streaky, right? It feels like throughout this season, it has been Tyler O'Neill is the best hitter on the Red Sox, or Tyler O'Neill is the worst hitter on the Red Sox. But again, looking at the overall statistics, looking at everything overall, how it impacts the Red Sox and this offense, I think you take those. You take the strikeouts and you take the streakiness, because when he is hot, he's going to be extremely productive. And if you can get guys in here who aren't going to strike out as much, well, then I don't think the strikeouts are going to be a problem either. But there are some cons with Tyler O'Neill, and the big one is absolutely the fact that his defense really wasn't all that great this year, which is kind of surprising considering the last 3 seasons, Tyler O'Neill has, at bare minimum, been a league average defender. Most of those seasons, he's been a well above league average defender. This year, though, he has -4 fielding run value, which is in the 18th percentile in Major League Baseball, meaning that basically 82% of the league had a better fielding run value, and -4 outs above average, which is in the 14th percentile in Major League Baseball. I honestly, have no idea what got into Tyler O'Neill this season. I don't know if it was something going on with the injuries that were preventing him, which we are going to talk about in a second, whether it was a change in scenery, maybe he just wasn't used to the monster, maybe he wasn't used to so much time in right and left field. I don't know what it was, but this isn't usual for Tyler O'Neill. However, the concern is that going to become a trend? If the Red Sox do bring him back, are they going to be comfortable playing him on the field, especially when we talk about what his contract may look like? The other thing, like I just mentioned, is that injury history. This is something that Tyler O'Neill hasn't really been able to shake his entire career. And this season, while he has played the second most games of his entire career, there were still a lot of points this season where you were missing Tyler O'Neill. You had 5 separate times on the IL this season, 2 of them from knee issues that I still think he's dealing with. I don't think he's fully healed from those yet. I think he's just playing through those. Another for doing something to his finger a couple of weeks ago. You had one from that concussion from running into Rafael Devers, and then you had that leg infection as well. And that's not even to mention days off where he wasn't feeling great, right? There were, I think there were 4 or 5 games over the last month or so that he was pulled out of or taken out of because he was sick. That led to that leg infection. Right? You probably realistically could have had him on another time on that IL. This is the second season of Tyler O'Neill's 7-year career where he's had played over 100 games. You've got this season where he's currently at 107. Again, I'm recording this the day before you guys are watching this. And in 2021 where he played 138. As he gets older, those injury probabilities only get higher. So is it worth investing in a player like Tyler O'Neill when you don't really know what his injury pattern is going to look like going forward, but you have a good idea of what his injury history has looked like? And so far, it hasn't been super pretty. So you take a look at the 2 different sides here, and there are definitely reasons on both sides as to whether or not you should bring him back, as to whether or not you should be aggressive in trying to extend Tyler O'Neill before they hit this offseason. But I think the biggest question here is, what is all of this going to cost, and how much is it going to take to get him to stay? But before we get into that question, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into that question. So because of all the pros and all the cons, Tyler O'Neill's in a really interesting situation when it comes to the overall projected value of his contract. Now, Spotrac is a really great place to go to get sort of a median value as to what a player could be worth. And right now, they're predicting that Tyler O'Neill's market ends up being something like 5 years, $90 million, or about $18 million a season for the next 5 years. I don't know if I entirely agree with that. Specifically, I don't know if I agree with the years attached to that. Tyler O'Neill's going to be going into his age 30 season, signing him till he's age 35 to $18, $19 million a season, especially with his injury history, definitely isn't something the Red Sox are going to be willing to do. And I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of teams that are super interested in doing that either. In my opinion, it's going to be a bit of a shorter term deal. And the reason I say that is because we do have something kind of similar to compare Tyler O'Neill's market to, and that is Jorge Soler last year. Now, they don't match up perfectly in terms of age. Jorge Soler is a year older, but at the same time, too, they do kind of match up fairly well with injury history and potential ceiling. And Jorge Soler last season signed a contract for 3 years, $42 million, which is about $14 million a season. I would again assume Tyler O'Neill would be hypothetically a bit more than that. I think because of his age and because he does have a bit more of a rounded attribute system, right? Yes, he is a known power hitter, but he does have some speed. And again, historically, he does have some pretty good defense. I would guess you're probably looking at something to sort of get a deal done here of 3 years, $52 million, which is $17.33 million a year. Now, you can move that up or down a little bit, but I think the most important part of this projected contract is the 3-year mark. I really don't see Tyler O'Neill wanting to take a 1 or 2 year prove it deal after he just proved it this season. And I really don't see teams wanting to make him sort of a landmark of their team for the next 5 years because of that injury history. So if you split the middle a little bit, 5 years, right around $18 million sounds about right. Now, the question becomes, if you were the Boston Red Sox and you were taking a look and this was the market that Tyler O'Neill had, are you bringing him back? And I think it's a really interesting question because I honestly don't know. I think there are positives. I think there are negatives. But I think the big thing with the Red Sox is, do they have room for him? Do the Red Sox have a spot to put Tyler O'Neill? Because even if they do sign him back, which I do think if they were to get something like this done, would be relatively smart. This fixes a big question mark for the Red Sox going into 2025. It gives them some veteran presence. And he hits well against both lefties. And at Fenway Park, it feels like a perfect match, like I said in the title, right? But at the same time, too, where do you put him? You probably don't want to play in the field every day, especially with Roman Anthony, Jaron Arance, Don Rafael, Willie Abreu currently on this roster that are all better defenders statistically than Tyler O'Neill. You really can't fit him at DH right now, so you'd have to move Masataka Yoshida, and then it becomes, does Tyler O'Neill want to come back and be mostly a DH? I don't know, right? Especially if he's going to take a shorter deal and have to go somewhere else probably after that. He's going to want to show that he can still play the field. Is that something that he's going to want to do? And there is one really big wrinkle in all of this, and that is that Tyler O'Neill is represented by Boris. So you guys know how Boris goes. I know how Boris goes, right? Last offseason was the Boris show that ended up with such a dud ending, really, and all those guys sort of didn't get what they want. Yeah, that's sort of exactly what Tyler O'Neill is being represented by this offseason, which makes everything even harder to get him onto the Boston Red Sox. But ultimately, if I am this front office, I am absolutely taking this time where you failed to get into the postseason again, and I'm sitting down with Tyler O'Neill, and I'm seeing if I get anything done. Maybe he does love it here. Maybe he wants to win with this team, and maybe he'd take a little bit of a hometown discount. Maybe you can get him for 3 years, $14 million. Maybe you can get him for 3 years, $16 million, as opposed to that 5 years, $90 million that he's projected to get. If you can't do that, I don't know if the Red Sox are going to be willing to bring him back on a bigger deal during the offseason, because I think if they can't get him now, they may pivot to more in-house options to fill that right-handed power gap. But I absolutely would be interested in bringing Tyler O'Neill back. I think he's a good fit with the Red Sox. I think he's a known quantity. And I think especially if you're planning on maybe playing him, more games at DH than not, you can really sort of monitor that injury history and make sure that it doesn't come back and bite you as hard as humanly possible. So I think there's good. I think there's bad. I think I'm leaning towards yes, I want them to re-sign him as opposed to no, but I'm still definitely somewhere in the middle. So let me know in the comment section down below and help me decide. What would you do if you were the Red Sox? Would you extend him? Would you let him go to free agency? And would you bring him back? Are there some of you guys that are like, hell no? Are there some of you guys that are like, he needs to be back in a Red Sox uniform? Let me know all your thoughts on this concept in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, you can always listen instead of watch these episodes. All you gotta do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.